Topic 3, the getting to know you topic. And you were a little panicked about this one because, I will like to give you like a pass on this one as well. Like everybody comes to me when I ask them to be on the show, they're like, I don't know what I want to talk about for like my non-gaming thing, because that's how we all know each other, is through gaming. So we all think of each other as, or like we all think of ourselves as like, there's nothing interesting about me. I have nothing else to talk about. We can only talk about gaming. And so like everybody's kind of been like, I don't know what I want to talk about for that. So
I'm literally sitting here like, can I talk about Otome games? Does that count as games? I have no life outside of games. Oh God.
I mean, like, and that's the thing. Like, Alex did the same thing. Cameron did something, and Frank did something. Oh, so I guess you are, yeah. Episode 4. That's what because I'm thinking about my first episode as like episode 1. I was like, no, I did that episode 0. Sorry, my own train of thought there. But so everybody kind of came back at me and was like, I don't know what to talk about in this. And for everyone, I kind of was like, well, here's something I know about you that I'm interested in, like, getting to know more about. Is that something you'd be fine talking about? And so everybody, like, for any future guests, like, just breathe and let's talk about something that you're interested in. So in your case, I was like, hey, like, we've had debates about like the DC movies. I know that you like comics. We could talk about comics. I mean, like, we touched on it a little bit in your gaming history. Like, anime would have been another topic that I think you could have like gladly like regaled me on. But so we kind of landed on comics. And if I don't know if you want to stick specifically to DC, or if you just want to talk comics in general. But so tell me about your passion and love for comics and what got you into comics, and like what comics mean now.
So talking about comics means talking about DC. Those are basically the same thing for me. I mean, I do love Saga. That's probably the only non-superhero comic that I read. And it's amazing. But if I'm talking comics, I'm talking DC superheroes, like, just being realistic here.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I've always kind of had this passion for, that I've always been like, but I can't really like that. Like, that's not something that I'm really like allowed to like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's this thing where whenever I had the chance to be near it, I've always been so drawn to it and captivated by it, but at the same time, never wanted to get close to. So like, you know, I grew up with like the Bruce Timmverse being this huge thing. So, you know, Batman the Animated Series was, you know, all the rage when I was a child. And then you had Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and then you had the Teen Titans animated series becoming really popular when I was a preteen. And so
oh yeah, we completely missed Teen Titans in your gaming history. I even thought about it and making a crack about your obsession with Teen Titans on your mobile.
Oh my god, I just hit level 50 in the
head.
Justice League in Teeny Titans. Go buy Teeny Titans. It's the only mobile game that I've ever advocated spending money on. I fucking love Teeny Titans. It's all I play. I have played so much Teeny Titans in the last month. Like, I'm level 50 in the Justice League, and I don't know if anybody who's played that game doesn't know what that means. That means that I've put dozens of hours into this game. Like, just so much time. I just play with these little goddamn virtual minifigs all day. They're so fun.
Good story there in Teeny Titans.
Oh, it really is. And like, it has these like different it has all these side quests, and it has like, it's a little RPG. I was shocked. Like, okay. I was surprised by the depth of it. Like, it really took me off guard, where you play as Robin, and, you know, he has all these different missions and all these different side quests and all these different characters, and they've got the fucking Wonder Twins in it, and they've got all of these like really obscure characters, because, you know, Teen Titans Go and is, you know, really good about getting those really obscure niche references. And the game is just full of things like that, but it really does, it's story mode, because it does have a fucking story mode of all things. It's story mode I've been playing for at least 15 hours. Like, it's incredible just how deep this game is, and I'm constantly like just playing it, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm still fucking playing this mobile game. Like, this should be on Vita. This is a game. Like, I have that like stigma with mobile games, and I'm always constantly shocked by like how deep this game is. It's a really good game. This, but like, for a mobile game, I just keeps blowing my mind. I mean, my bar for mobile games is, you know, here, but it's wonderful. And so, I really got into DC through other media, first and foremost, for sure. My very first memory of Batman is seeing Batman 1989 playing at a drive-in movie theater. Now I was born in 92, so they were playing an old Batman movie. This isn't like I saw it at its premiere or anything.
Right.
But it was my first memory of being at a drive-in, so that's a special memory for me. And I was just watching Batman, like, in the backseat of my car, and it was just, like, the coolest thing. And so I've always had this love for, like, the DC universe, because it was always just, like, this, like, dark and noir, cool, like, edgy, hip universe. When you had, like, the 90s X-Men with its bouffant hair and its ridiculous bright neon outfits. And so X-Men was always just, like, this X-Men, and by kind of virtue of being Marvel with Spider-Man and things like that, I always equated Marvel with these, like, kind of bright, garish, outlandish, kind of a little bit ridiculous, more juvenile characters and things like that. And it was a little bit harder for me to take seriously, but I was always really, really drawn to, like, the grittiness and how dark DC could be. And so I definitely got my start in other media, but I started reading the comics seriously probably about 6 years ago. And then I hopped on board really hardcore at the launch of the New 52. So that was a really good starting point for me. I got really into the New 52 Wonder Woman run, the New 52 Batman run, New 52 Justice League Dark, which was just, like, the coolest concept ever that kind of didn't go much. And, I'm the kind of person that when I get into something, I have to know everything about it. So, I skipped school one day in high school to read the Wikipedia page for every mutant in the Marvel universe. Like, that's just what I do for fun.
Yeah.
So what I've become very, very knowledgeable about comics, and I go back and I read the more famous runs, All-Star Superman, The Long Halloween, The Killing Joke, Hush, things like that. The Suicide Squad miniseries, things like that. So it's very, very interesting for me because it can be hard, because I'm always nervous to consider myself, like, to out myself as a comic book fan. You say I'm a comic book fan and you're talking to other comic book fans, I am always afraid that somebody's going to be like, oh yeah, well, here, random trivia question, answer it now or I don't believe you. And I'm always afraid I'm going to not know it, and then people are going to be like, oh, well, you're just a poser. Because I don't think that my knowledge is all that impressive. I mean, I haven't been reading the actual comics themselves for more than 6 years, but I've researched so much and I've done so much history into so many of the characters that I am fairly well versed. And I kind of don't realize that, like, how much more I know than other people, until someone is like, oh, Robin, isn't that Dick Grayson? And I'm like, oh, well, that Robin's actually Tim Drake. And they're like, there's more than one Robin? And then I spend 25 minutes going through the different Robins, and I think they're really interested. And then they're like, wow, Kaylie, you know a lot about the different Robins. I'm like, oh, you weren't interested at all. Yeah, I thought you were interested. And they're like, no, that was fascinating. You talked for like a half hour. I'm like, well, I thought you cared. Never mind. I'm sorry for wasting your time, but
I've done the same. I've done the same stuff at work, where, like, we'll be talking about, like, oh, this next superhero movie's coming up, and they'll ask me, because they know I am, like, the nerd culture kind of person, and so I'll be like, oh, well, yeah, it's this, but because of because I'll go, like, super business and behind the scenes stuff, and I'll talk about, like, oh, well, yeah, they can't do this in because Sony has the rights to these people, and then Marvel has the rights to these guys, and you're never going to see this and this because Marvel and DC are different, and yeah, I will completely derail meetings at work to talk about that kind of stuff, and they're like, oh, wow, yeah, that's was not expecting that. Let's go ahead and get back on track.
I'm always like, how much is,
like, yeah, I know this stuff really well and could continue talking about it, so oops, my bad.
But so I always always preface it like I don't know that much, but then I guess I should give myself more credit because I am fairly knowledgeable. Because I love a good story, and I hate endings, and I hate getting to the end of a story. I love reading series of books. I love things like that. And what better than comics that have been going on for, 50 consecutive years, things of that nature, to where you have these never ending sources of stories to pull from. And so I love it as a medium, as you have these decades of the same character, and I think it's fascinating. And so, like, me personally, I've always been a DC fangirl, and I'm unabashed and terrible, and I can't help myself. It's terrible. I should probably be ashamed, but whatever.
Yeah, it's fine.
I love.
So in the DC realm, you like reading the comics now. Do you watch the CW shows? I know we've talked about the movies and stuff. Do you watch the shows? Do you watch Gotham or any of the CW stuff, or you just kind of leave that to its own medium?
I watched the first 2 seasons of Gotham. I need to watch the 3rd one. I like Gotham. I think it's really interesting. I think they do a lot of really fun stuff. I kind of try to just take it for what it is, and I kind of, I don't like things that get picked on. So whenever somebody when it got so much shit talk, I'm always like, hey, let me give it a chance. And so I kind of watch it wanting to like it, and I'm easy to please, and so it's very hard for me not to like something to begin with. So like if I watch something and go, I did not like, I didn't like that movie, that means something, because it's hard for me to not like a movie. I like some shitty movies. Like,
oh, I know.
Like, I know, like, I love the Penguin in Gotham. I think he is fantastic. The Penguin that they have in Gotham is one of the best versions of the Penguin that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, because I watched the first couple seasons of Gotham, in the same vein, and my issue was always that like it's the same issue I have with like Ryan Murphy shows, and I know you're a big fan of like American Horror Story and stuff. It's that like they're so, I get whiplash in the tone of those shows, and Gotham is the same kind of thing where it wants to be like the campy 1960s Batman one moment, and then it wants to be super gritty Nolan Batman the next, and I'm like, I can't take that journey with you all the time. We can't have this moment where like you're having funny little like jokes in a song thing, and then you throw somebody off a building. That's too like you need to pick to one of those things for me. So that's my big frustration with Gotham, and kind of why I don't stick with that one as much as I have other shows, for example.
Because I think that Gotham, as a city, not as a show, that I think that Gotham has to be dark. It has to have that men getting thrown off buildings. It has to go there. But I don't like I'm not the biggest fan of the Nolan trilogy. Oh my god, I just said that. Because I don't like things to be super dark, super gritty, super realistic all the time. That's not what makes comic books fun. Comic books are fun because they don't have to be super dark, super gritty, super realistic. They can be, edge. They can be, a little campy. They can be, these other, a little bit not realistic. I mean, he's running around in fucking spandex, for Christ's sake. So I like the fact that, these are people who live in a world where people get thrown off buildings. So they're going to crack a joke where they can find a joke. Yeah, it's an inappropriate time, but this is their everyday lives, and these cops would go insane and blow their brains out if they didn't take those moments of levity where they could find them.
Yeah, and I don't mean like the characters cracking wise or something like that. Like the Bullock character I love in that, and the actor who plays him, I loved it. It's like the writers thinking, oh, I'm gonna have this really funny moment, and then the punchline of this moment is like somebody just like goes flying off a building, and now we're supposed to take things seriously. And I'm like, that's a large leap to make. In the same way that I couldn't deal with like Glee singing fluffy stuff and then trying to address like issues of rape and stuff. I'm like, that's that is not like, that's absolutely a thing that should be addressed, but I don't think you guys are the ones to address it. Was my like that's what I'm talking about. Like
I
a
had a lot of
disconnect
problems
between
with Glee in a lot of areas like that too. So I kind of get what you're saying, but I don't know. I like the fact that, because if it was all camp, it would be too much. But if it was all serious, I would get bogged down on how serious it is. So I do like that. Like, you know, here's a jovial moment of humor, and then it's like, and now it's back to fucking reality because Gotham is hell. Did you forget it was hell? Did the writers let you forget it was hell for a second? Well, this place fucking sucks. So just that snap back to, you know, Balloon Man just dropped someone off a building, or, you know, floated away and they popped and came crashing back down. And so I think that crashing back down to reality and that jarring juxtaposition of, you know, we're all campy, having fun, making cop jokes and eating donuts, and then Joker comes in and, you know, does something ridiculous. You know, I have to imagine that's what it's like in Gotham, you know, like that has to be that jarring, where it's like a little girl's birthday party, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, armed robbers run through and knock over her cake, and then, you know, her dad's dead. And that, like, her dad's dead now forever, and that's like her reality. And so, like, because Gotham is such a fucked up juxtaposition of wealth and prosperity and extravagance mixed with this type of crime that doesn't even exist in reality, it's so absurdly dark. It is a little ridiculous, and tonally it is a little all over the place, but I think that's what Gotham is, like, as a city, not as a show. That's a little confusing to talk about, but I see what you're saying. I do.
Yeah. And I mean, I definitely have a better appreciation for the juxtaposition given your response. And that just reminded me, I wanted to ask this back in gaming history, given your focus and love of like story-based games, like the Telltale games. Like, are you playing the Telltale Batman?
I'm not playing it until all of the episodes are out. Okay. I can't wait. I'm not that kind of person.
You know,
yeah.
You need to binge it.
I
totally get that. That's for the most part, I'm the same way on the Telltale games. I've been like playing this one through episodically, but like a lot of times in the past, I'll start one and I'll be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna come back to this once everything is done. So I get that. I will be interested in connecting with you once that's done to see your take on Telltale's Batman.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely the moment it got announced, I was super excited for it. But the moment it got announced, I was like, I will play that once all of the episodes are out, and not a moment before.
There you go. Absolutely.
So that's definitely always been my intention with it, and I cannot wait. I hope that they stick to their release schedule and everything comes out on time, and I can play it relatively quickly, because I will play through all of those episodes in like one day.
Yeah. So so we've touched on Gotham a little bit. Do you the other kind of the big example, especially now, because it's in like launch week on the CW, are the CW shows? Do you watch them at all?
Yeah. So one of my favorite superheroes is Green Arrow. One of my first tattoos was my Black Canary tattoo, and a lot of people didn't know who she was. I got a lot of shit from people because they were like, "Oh, you mean you like that rip-off Batman?" And I was like, you know, I love. The hard part is I always loved Green Arrow because he was who Bruce Wayne pretended to be. He is a billionaire playboy. Like, that's not an act. You know, Bruce Wayne does it and it's an act. No, Ollie really is a joking, jovial, cheats on his super hot blonde wife and has a kid out of wedlock, you know, fucking, you know, guy. He is who Bruce Wayne pretends to be. He does have that lightheartedness, and Bruce can be so dark and so brooding, and it can kind of suck the fun out of it. You have Ollie being so lighthearted and funny with his, you know, punching bag, boxing glove arrow, and, you know, all his tricks and stuff like that. He's the one who had the first HIV positive sidekick, you know, with Mia Dearden's Speedy. She was a former prostitute. And, you know, he could handle that storyline because he has the lightheartedness to balance that out, while Bruce is so dark that he needs added light. And so I've always loved Green Arrow, and so when Arrow was announced, I was like, Green Arrow? Green Arrow's getting some love? Oh my god, yes! And then they made Batman the TV show, and it wasn't my Ollie. And so Arrow, I really struggled with.
I was gonna say you've described a very different character than you see in Arrow.
Exactly. I mean, the Oliver Queen that they have is basically Bruce Wayne, and so that was hard for me. And then I love Black Canary, and I love Katie Cassidy, and so I hate it when a show kills a character and brings them back multiple times. I thought there was absolutely no reason to create fucking White Canary. I thought that was stupid. I thought that they made so many poor choices, especially in the third season. I thought that breaking up Felicity and fucking the Atom just fucking ruined everything. And her and Ollie getting together was like bad fan fiction. I thought that then killing Black Canary after you killed White Canary twice was fucking stupid. And so Arrow got so ridiculously soap opera for me that I tapped out halfway through season 3. It was really good. I loved it. And then I couldn't anymore. On the flip side, Flash is amazing. Like, I haven't watched the new season yet because I'm behind and I suck. But I love Flash. And I will say I didn't watch... I was really bad about Legends of Tomorrow. I would not watch it, and then I'd binge like 4 episodes, and then not watch it, and then binge the next 4 episodes. But it made me like White Canary more so than I ever liked her on Arrow. I never thought I'd like her, and I didn't hate her. So that was definitely a marked improvement. Victor Garber was great. It was really, really interesting for me. So I'm excited for Legends of Tomorrow. I'm excited for The Flash. I've completely given up on Arrow. I don't think it can be redeemable at this point unless Flashpoint comes in and saves it, to be totally honest. If Flashpoint rewrites the last season and a half.
Yeah, and that was the when the last season ended and they were like, this, like, that's where we're going with everything. I was like, is it, like, I mean, Flashpoint, does that affect the other shows? And they said in interviews, yes, it does, but I haven't seen anything in the new season yet to suggest it. But they also haven't done any of like the crossover stuff yet, so we'll see.
I mean, my favorite couple in all of comics is Black Canary and Green Arrow, and he's fucking Felicity Smoke for some reason. Like, I don't just put the most famous couple. Like, I don't think you get how impressive it was that they were married. Like, you know, Spider-Man and Mary Jane were married for a long time, and that was a huge deal. Black Canary and Green Arrow have been married in comic books longer than almost any other couple in comic books. They are one of the most long-standing relationships in comic book history. Like, there is so much legacy there. Like, they are fucking... You don't fuck with that couple. And they just keep fucking it up so bad. Like, stop ruining it with your stupid, soapy bullshit. Like, stop creating this extra Black Canary. We already had a perfectly fine Black Canary. And then they destroyed Laurel's character, and then they finally redeemed Laurel's character and made her, you know, she would start off as a super cool badass attorney lady, and then they made her an alcoholic, pill-popping dipshit, and then they redeemed her character and made her a canary cry badass, and then they killed her, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, you keep ruining it, fixing it, and then ruining it again. Stop peeing in your own Cheerios. Like, they've frustrated me a lot with the writing decisions they've made, because when Felicity Smoke and the Atom were together, that couple was so cute and adorable. She was the first person he slept with after his wife died, and she just goes and fucks her best friend, who he was worried about her cheating on him with, the same night she breaks up with him. You're a shitty person, Felicity. He fucked you after his wife died. Like, that meant something to him. It took you less than 24 hours to fuck the other guy because he has a six-pack. Like, you are a shitty person, Felicity. Why do I give a shit about you anymore? You have become irredeemably shallow now. Like, they just destroyed any semblance of love I had for that character. Like, why? For what purpose? I just... Ugh.
Gotta get Kaylie in that writing room with her charts of Fire Emblem people.
Exactly. Like, stop ruining everything. I hate you. So that was incredibly frustrating for me. I loved bringing Constantine back. He's super fun. I'm excited for Supergirl. I did see she's not really available on streaming because I cut the cord a while ago, and so I usually watch my shows on Hulu. And Supergirl wasn't available on Hulu. She was only available, they did the first 2 episodes on Amazon Prime last year. So I saw the first 2 episodes of Supergirl, and I didn't see the rest.
Okay.
Now that it's on CW, I think they're streaming it on Hulu. I haven't checked.
All the CW shows, a public service announcement. All the CW shows are done on Hulu. They like the Hulu deal ended, so now it's like everything's on Netflix from like last season, and then other than that, like CW has their own app now, so that's where I've been watching like
Oh,
the
that's right.
seasons.
I'll probably watch it on that then. Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
true.
it's you have to just go through and watch through the CW's app or whatever.
But I couldn't watch Supergirl last season on CBS, so I liked the first two episodes. I really liked what they were doing, and I kept up with it on Wikipedia, and so I loved what they did with Martian Manhunter. I think Martian Manhunter is a really cool character that outside of the Justice League Bruce Timm shows doesn't really see a lot of attention. So that was really cool to see him on there. Like, who knows who the fuck John Johns is? Not a lot of people.
Yeah.
The
only Supergirl I watched was the Flash crossover episode last year. But now that like they're all in one place, I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm fortunate in that like at work I can just kind of throw that on on one of my other monitors and just kind of have that playing in the background, and it's a passive enough medium that I can get what's going on even if I'm not always like just staring at that screen. So yeah, I'll probably just routinely throw it on. Like I if I didn't have as many meetings today, I was gonna throw it on and catch like the premiere of Supergirl that aired last night as we're recording this, I guess. But I did not get around to it. So yeah, it's like now that they're all in one place, I'm like, oh okay, now I'll give that Supergirl one maybe more of a shot.
Me too. Like I had once when it was on CBS, I was like, I watched it too. They were free on Amazon Prime, but I have no real interest in catching up on it. But then I'm like, oh, now it's part of this universe that I already like. All right, now I'll see what it's all about, and so I'm willing to give it a shot.
Yeah. So you still, in terms of like the comics continuity, you're still kind of keeping up with a lot of those series.
Yeah. So the new I call it the new 52. The new relaunch that they did, kind of like I wouldn't call it a.
Uh-oh.
Points people ask Greg Miller and stuff a lot, I want to get into comics, when's a good place to start? And so for the last couple of years I've always said start at the first run issues of the New 52, like it's made as a starting point. Well, now they've done a new kind of jumping on point, so to speak, and so they've started a couple new runs of comics and stuff like that. So if anybody's looking to get into comics now, they just started a new jumping on point this year. And so that is what I would recommend. If you're going to get into comics, do it now. And do this jumping on point because things are really cool. Wonder Woman's been great since the New 52 launched. It's gotten, it can kind of ebb and flow. But the first run of, 28, maybe more issues, was really solid, and Batman's just been stellar. Teen Titans started off really weak, which always breaks my heart. Like, that hurt. I wanted Teen Titans to be good for a really long time, but it's getting a lot better now. Red Hood, it used to be Red Hood and the Outlaws. Now it's Red Hood and Arsenal. Red Hood and Arsenal is really cool. It's formerly Speedy from Green Arrow's sidekick, formerly of the Teen Titans as well. That's a really good one. There's all sorts of stuff that just kind of, people aren't dumb. Like, do you know who Superman is? Does he interest you? Do you want to read some Batman? Of course you want to read some damn Batman. But then there are other things like, I'm trying to go off the top of my head. Just they have these different combinations. So, like, Wonder Woman and Superman were dating for a long time, so they had a Wonder Woman Superman crossover book. That was really well received. Things like that.
Yeah. Did you read the American Alien?
Yeah.
The Landis? Yeah.
The Max Landis? No.
No, not yet. Okay. That's definitely one that's like on my radar of checking out. The outside of, I mean, I've never really been like comics in the continuity. I research and I keep up to date with a lot of what's going on I mean, I guess not really on the continuity, the comic book side of things, but in all the other media. So like I watch all the superhero movies. I keep up to date enough on a lot of the shows and watch a lot of the shows. And like, so I know like most of the mythos. It's the same kind of thing as you. Like I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I could hold my own in a conversation. And I of of like of my theater friends, I'm the one that knows more than most. There's one guy who like does drag as Wonder Woman stuff, and he's like super into. There are a couple that are super into DC and stuff, and I they know far more than I do. But against most of them, I can absolutely hold my own. So uh, I get that. As far as like what I've actually read, Killing Joke is like I think probably the only like known DC story that I've really read. And outside of that, I've read like The Watchmen, but for the most part, I consume comics in TV form or movie form. So yeah, like I watched the animated series and Batman Beyond and a lot of those shows growing up, and I check in every now and then on like other shows that are out there. But in terms of like grabbing a weekly comic or monthly series or something like that, it's just I'm a little bit more the opposite in that like I do want a like firm endpoint. Like with TV shows, I know the show's going to end at some point in time, so I'm okay getting in now and sticking along for the ride. But with like the comic book continuity being so up in the air, I'm just like I don't know if I can commit to like reading this thing now and starting this thing, and then it having to be a thing in my life for the next 10 years. So
Well, I
I would
mean,
rather take
that's
like the stories as they come.
yeah, I mean that's not exactly how comic book storylines work. So like you'll have a storyline,
Right.
and so like, there's arcs, of course. So you have like the Court of Owls arc. It was the first New 52 Batman arc that was really popular, but that was only what like 12 issues or so, which you could read that in a day. I mean it takes a year when you're doing it monthly, but or however long you're doing it weekly. So it kind of depends on what you're looking at, but it's not so much in terms of storyline where it's like it's never ending, and it can seem overwhelming. Like I understand what you mean, but when you start reading and you kind of like pick like, okay, I'm gonna follow these 3 comics, and you start reading them, you realize that there are like this is the end of this saga, and a new kind of like adventure is going to start next week. If I didn't like that one, or I thought like that was okay, but I'd rather like focus on a different comic, then I'm gonna stop buying Wonder Woman now. That story was enough Wonder Woman for me, or I liked it. Now it's over. I'm gonna move on. So I think that while I understand what you're saying, I feel like the more that you read comics, the less that becomes a concern, because you do see where things kind of end.
Yeah. No,
And then you have big
that's
events.
absolutely fair.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also
Or even
like
just those like one shot stories and things like that.
yeah, that's the
Pretty
like
serious.
that's the I think that's the stuff that will is just more appealing to me is I already have enough other things on my plate that adding one more thing that I need to then remember to pick up next month or whatever the case may be, or I mean if I'm doing it digital, I'm sure I can automatically subscribe to those things or whatever. But it's it's a, oh it's the same as like the Telltale games where I like if I'm really focused on it, I'll know when the next episode comes out and I'll try and like jump on it right there. But if I'm distracted and looking at something else, like episode 2 and 3 are going to come out, and then by the time episode 4 comes out, I'm like, oh, I've got all those other things that I still need to go and get through. Screw it, I'll just wait until the whole thing is done and I'll play through the whole series. It's that I would much rather have the I forget the terminology. Is it the trades where it's like here's the whole run all in one
Mm-hmm.
thing? Yeah,
Yeah, the trades.
yeah. That's the my preferred method of consumption. Just like I mean, yeah, it's the binge methodology. I'd rather have like give me the full story now, and then I'll do it. But also for me, reading is so like that's probably my least engaging form of entertainment in these days. I would much rather listen to something or watch a show or like do anything but read. That it's something has to go above and beyond to get me to sit down and read it after years and years of reading plays after plays after plays. I'm just like, I'm kind of burnt out on reading for the most part. And I'm not, I wish I were more interested in reading. I'm just not. I have to spend, I can't read and do something else at the same time for the most part. And I'm always trying to like multitask as much as I can. So I will play a game while I'm listening to a podcast, or like I'll have a game on while I'm listening to a show or something like that, where I
definitely get that. I mean, I come
from things.
Yeah, I come from a voracious reading background, so I just have that innate love for it where I get sucked up into it. But yeah, that's why I love podcasts, where like, you know, I'm constantly going to look for new podcasts because I've listened to the 3 podcasts that I follow. I've listened to their archives 4 times on repeat already, and I'm like desperate for new ones because I do have to, if I'm playing a game, I have to listen to a podcast at the same time. But I do have a special place in my heart for reading, and especially because comics to me are so low time commitment, because like for me, like I've had people get mad at me because like when I read manga, I can read a full like tankobon so quickly because I don't spend too much time looking at the art. I'm an unappreciative bitch that way, so like I'm reading the bubbles, and you know it doesn't take long to read a 26-page comic. So it's not too much of a time commitment for me. But I understand what you're saying, that, you know, 5 minutes is 5 minutes when you can be doing something else at the same time. But I love reading. I always have. And so I'm always looking for new ways to do it and new things to read and to just consume. And I love knowledge. I just want to consume all of it. I just want to consume everything. And so I've always just been so fascinated, and I hate books coming to an end. Like I have like these abandonment issues with novels where I'm like, no, it's over. Like what happens next? I can't do this. I just want to be in this character's life forever. Like what happens to them tomorrow? Someone tell me. And so comics solve that problem 100% for me. Like I can't be in their lives for the next 60 years.
There you go.
I love it because it is just so much knowledge and so much information, and I'm always looking for more information to consume. Like sometimes I feel just like I'm dark side looking for more planets, and I'm just hungry all the time. And comics are just like the biggest, juiciest planet.
Have you played any of the Lego DC games?
Yeah, I have Lego Batman 3 Beyond Gotham. That was the first Lego game I ever played, actually. Okay. That's really fun. Yeah, so I haven't played any more Lego games. I love to play Lego Dimensions because Lego Batman 3 has been so fun. That I do want to play more Lego games. Like if they do like a Lego Justice League, I would totally get that. But Lego Dimensions like super cool because I love Portal, and so they have the Portal levels, and you know they have all sorts of cool stuff, and so
I know.
You know, it's just yeah, I know, you know, it's so expensive that I don't have there's that barrier of entry for me that I haven't like overcome that hurdle yet. But if I find myself with a disposable income at some point, I would love to invest in Lego Dimensions because that's my shit.
Yeah.
You get a little Batmobile. It would just be great. But yeah, Lego Batman 3 is really fun. Shut up. You're a monster.
I know. Yeah, it's great because like the whole Lego Dimensions thing is the worlds are all combining and mashing up, and so you've got in the DC world in Lego Dimensions is like Metropolis and Gotham basically mashed into one. So it's kind of like Batman v Superman. I can use that as a segue into the DC movies, which you are, there you go. The Greg Miller Batman v Superman is a good movie sign from Kind of Funny Live too. Sorry, say something so it pops up, and it's not just me looking at it.
No, it's just you looking at it. Batman vs Superman is a good movie.
There we go. Yeah, but like, I'm saying you needed to say something so the audience could look at it.
I know.
Because in the video version that we'll export, it's just going to be me when it's me. They won't see the little bubble of you in the corner. So there, you got to see the sign from Kind of Funny Live 2.
Everyone
and everybody is craving Kind of Funny Live 2 content. So
there you go.
They will go. That was at Kind of Funny Live 2 until Tim Geddes releases the video. You can always go and check my recap. Plug. So you're a fan of the DC movies as they've been coming out. Do you care to discuss that?
Oh, we've talked about this so many times. I will talk about Batman vs Superman briefly with you, because we touched on this so many times. I loved the extended version, first and foremost. Let's just say the extended version was far superior to theatrical. I liked the theatrical as well, but the extended answered so many questions that even I was like, well, that is a little bit confusing. But watching the extended, I was like, oh, it's because they edited out the part where it made sense. Now it makes even more sense than it did before. I thought Batman vs Superman did what it needed to do for me. And what it needed to do for me was make me go, this is a cool universe. I want to see what all the other heroes are doing. I want to see what happens next. I want to see the Justice League movie. I want to see what it looks like when they're all hanging out in a fucking spaceship orbiting the goddamn Earth being cool Justice League guys. Like, I want to see more. Like, it made me hungry. It made me want more. Because I really think the choices were cool. I want to see more Alfred. I want to see more of these characters. I want to figure out how Wonder Woman's a million years old. I want to see what the fuck Chris Pine is doing, you know, like Agent Carter style, where she's 90 on her deathbed. Like, I want to see old Chris Pine with prosthetic makeup on. Like, you know, that there's a lot of really cool, you know, oh my god, Jason Momoa. Oh, I want someone to chop his hand off and put a hook on it. Oh, that's my favorite Aquaman. Got the hook in the beard. He's a total badass.
There you go.
But, you know, badass Jason Momoa, like, that Flash is so quippy and funny. Like, it really got me excited for more movie. And I think that the difference between the theatrical version and the extended version just hammered to the studio, hey, this would have been better if you let them do what the fuck they wanted. So with the Justice League movie, maybe just let them do what the fuck they want. And so I really think that, like, the fact that, and Suicide Squad was a less superior film than BVS, and I'm just going to touch on it briefly because I don't want to talk about Suicide anymore. I did a whole podcast about Suicide Squad. I've talked to death about that movie. There's going to be an extended version. I'm assuming the extended version is going to be even better than the traditional, because that seems to be the pattern here. The pattern seems to be that the original film was better, and editing keeps editing out all the shit that makes it make sense. So, yes, they're making these longer movies. I like longer movies. Like, yeah, it's 3 hours. I don't care. I'd watch it if it was 4 hours because I love this universe. I think it's fascinating. And as a comic book fan, there was so much in it where it's like, you know, Injustice fucking Superman with the armbands, and I'm freaking out because Ezra Miller Flash is clearly running in from the future to warn Batman, and he's like, oh no, I'm here too early, and I'm like, oh my god, he's running in from the future, oh my god, the Superman is gonna be evil, oh my god, this is gonna be amazing. And like everybody else in the theater doesn't get these references because they don't understand the concept of Flash running through time, and they haven't played Injustice, they don't know about this alternate universe where Superman goes evil, and they don't get these things, but I do, and I see paratroopers and parademons, and I'm fucking excited as shit because holy shit, parademons, Darkseid's fucking coming, and like, oh my god. So like, I see so much greatness, and I know that to me, the thing that's been limiting the potential of these movies seems to be studio interference, and the more that becomes clear, ideally, the less studios will interfere going forward. I have super high hopes for the Wonder Woman movie. I really think it's going to be good. And I think that it being good will make the Justice League movie get a lot more creative control where it can be the film that it wants to be. And I feel like if Batman vs Superman was the film it wanted to be in the first place, and that extended cut was the cut that was released initially, they'd have started off on a much different footing, and their trajectory would be a lot better. I liked the theatrical release. My mouth was agape the last hour and a half of that film. I was just like, this is amazing. So like, I loved it to begin with, but the extended cut just made it that much better to me. Like there was questions I didn't even know I had that it answered. Like it was just so good. I've watched it 3 times, and it's a 3-hour long movie. So like I really feel like they're being hampered by an inability to put out the movie that they wanted to make, and the movie that the script was designed to make, and the movie that was filmed. And so I feel like the more creative control that they're given, because I like the direction they want to take the universe, once they're allowed to take it there, it's going to be brilliant. I thought that the Nolan films were a little too gritty and a little too realistic and didn't feel comic booky to me. And I feel like that, you don't want the Schumacher pure camp, but these films, to me, Snyder has such respect for the comic book medium. And you can say a lot of things about Snyder, but the one thing that really bothers me as a complaint is whenever I hear someone say he doesn't have respect for the comic book medium. Because no one has more respect for the medium. No one cares more about the integrity of comic books adapted to film as Zack Snyder does as director. He perfectly look at Watchmen and look at the love and care. Like, you might not agree with the direction, you might not agree with it, you can dislike it, that's fine. But to say that he didn't care is just, to me, ignorant. Like, of course he cared. He put love and care and time and perfection into getting perfect panels recreated in film. Like, there was care put into that.
Yeah.
You can't say the man doesn't care.
Regardless
how you feel about what he created, to say he doesn't care, I think, is a little ridiculous.
I don't think it's a matter of caring. I think he is wonderful at translating an image from a frame in a comic book and putting it up on. I think he's great visually. I think oftentimes my frustrations with his interpretations are that it's not even that he's so slavish to the image. I don't think he, like, the Superman in Man of Steel. Superman in Man of Steel is fine, and I actually, like, I wasn't one of the ones that at end of Man of Steel was like, Superman killed somebody, that can't happen. I was like, it left me intrigued to see, okay, how is the world going to respond to the end of Man of Steel? And then Batman v Superman came around, and I just didn't. I didn't like how, like, his approach to how the world responded to it. My bigger complaint is that the Superman I see in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman is so dour and broody that he feels like it feels like Zack Snyder wanted to make Batman movies out the gate, but didn't have that, like, didn't have the studio buy-in, so he turned Superman into a Batman kind of dark and mopey character that doesn't have, like, the levity and, like, love for country and like idealism that is the Superman that I envision when I think of Superman.
I can see where you would think that if you have, and I don't mean this in a condescending way because this will sound condescending, I can see where you would get that if you have a more superficial understanding of Superman as a comic book character. But to that, I would say read, it's a single issue, and it got turned into an animated film. So I would watch the animated film Superman versus the Elite based on one issue comic book. Whatever happened to what's so funny about what's so funny about, it's like Truth, Justice, and the American Way, something like that. I'm butchering it, but
I mean, that's the
Superman
catchphrase.
versus the Elite. Yeah, it's that catchphrase, but it's like, what's so funny about it and that, and And Superman vs. the Elite is the animated film that I got turned into, so you can just watch that film if you prefer. It's a very good animated film. The DC animated films have been just very, very good. And that's definitely one of them to me. And it deals with Superman's struggle to be a moral compass, and to be a moral compass when the world doesn't agree with him. And the Superman that you see in the Zack Snyder films reminds me so strongly of that Superman, or even the Superman in All-Star Superman. Superman dealing with when he gets cancer and thinks he's dying, and that Superman. And so there are the times when Superman has to deal with the weight of, he is in this interesting position where he has the power to make moral choices that are hard and save and take lots of lives. And that is something that is not always easy to know if you're making the right decision. And I think that not a lot of versions of Superman in different media, aside from comics, touch on that part of Superman. And I think that's why people who don't read comics are definitely not familiar with that aspect to him, because usually you have Batman's the dark, brooding pessimist, and Superman is the light, joyful optimist. And you rarely see the Superman that is struggling with, I don't know if I made the right decision, and my decisions can kill people. And everyone is telling me I'm wrong. Am I wrong? And so I really like exploring that struggle that he has and that darkness that he has, because Superman so rarely deals with his own darkness, especially in non-comic mediums. He does, and he has a lot of very famous miniseries and short runs and trades that deal with that, but not so much in other mediums. And so you're right, you don't really see Superman like that if you don't go looking for it or read comics. And that's why I like it, because you're like Superman doesn't really deal with yeah, he has the weight of the world on his shoulders all the time, and he's making these decisions that basically affect nations, but he's never like worried about it. Well, yeah, but wouldn't you be? And so like there's that humanizing aspect where one of the biggest differences I feel between Batman and Superman that I think is very profound is that Batman is who he really is, and Bruce Wayne is who he pretends to be. That's his mask. He puts on this playboy front to keep up appearances, but he is who he naturally is when he is in that Batcave trying to stop crime. Superman is the mask. He is Clark Kent. That's who he is. He's a Kansas boy who's trying to do what's right, who loves a bitchy reporter that I can't stand, and Superman is this mask that he puts on to protect the people he cares about while he fights crime. And so there's that severe difference in just everything that they do. And so when you see that strong, I'm 100% certain that every choice I make is the correct choice because I am morally perfect and I'm a Boy Scout, that's Superman. But what you see in the Snyder movies and what you see in certain trades of Superman is Clark Kent battling with, I'm playing with moral conundrums most people play with hypothetically and can't get answers to. And if I am wrong, the ramifications of that are huge. I have to be right. I have to be morally perfect. And that is a heavy weight to bear. Like, I was raised human. I'm not a fucking alien. So like American Alien is an interesting title for that piece, especially. Like, I think about that title a lot too, because it's interesting. He was born and raised in Kansas. I mean, he is just a rural hick for the most part, who just happens to have the power to affect great change. And so he has to have this incredibly strong moral compass and not waver in his decisions. And so when you see him waver in those decisions, it can be jarring and confusing and a little scary, because you're not used to seeing Superman that vulnerable, because Superman can't usually afford to hesitate or be uncertain. So yeah, I definitely understand why it would be a little like, that's not the Superman I know. Why is he dark and brooding? Like, that's unusual. But I think he's kind of at his most humanizing when he's like that, because the number one problem people have with Superman is, how do you relate to someone who's perfect? You know, he's a god among men. How do you relate to Superman of all people? Like, that's the reason that Superman usually doesn't rank as high in people's favorite characters, because he's hard to relate to. And I like seeing that Zack Snyder Superman, because he becomes a man. And it's nice to see someone remember that he's a man.
Hi there. I'm wearing a new outfit because hopefully, if I've done well, like, the cut wasn't too noticeable. But when I first started recording this episode with Kaylie, we got about to the end of the third topic, and then my internet just shat the bed. So we had to reschedule, and she just moved across the country. So so we just scheduled this, recording this like the night now before part 3 of her episode goes live. Kaylie, feel free to say hi so they can see your new digs.
Look, I've completely changed absolutely everything.
Hooray! So where we left off, which for the audience will have been like 10 seconds ago, but for me was a week ago, you had just made up
continuity.
Indeed. So you had just made this great point about Superman being vulnerable and getting to see him as a human, as some dumb hick, I believe, as you put it in Batman v Superman. And my response before, like, my internet just went to shit was effectively, I appreciate that the argument you put forth there, and I just didn't see it in Zack Snyder's take on the character. So I like, if I had seen your version of Superman, I would have been much more intrigued by Batman v Superman. But as it was, I was kind of left meh. So
basically, you just think that I should write superhero movies, is where we ended.
I mean, yeah, I guess. Sure. We'll go with that.
Like that.
Yeah. Kaylie Woomer, superhero comic writer. All right.
100%.
So that's the end of topic 3. All of it's, taking a week's worth to film. But hopefully I was able to splice these together nice and seamlessly, even though I'm wearing completely different garb and you're in a completely different state. Okay, so